All right, everybody. So we are live. We welcome you to our Bridging Dimensions show, where we're going to be talking about astrology, trap or tool. Is astrology guiding your soul, or is it limiting your freedom? We have today our beautiful guest, Brooke Underwood, who I'll tell you more about now. And she's going to help us dive into a very, very rich conversation. I first want to mention that, of course, I am Marguerite Regal-Yozo of Seven Sisters Mystery School. And in our Inner Sanctum Temple, which is a monthly experience, we have had a presentation, teachings called Harmonizing and Transmuting, Transforming, Transcending Astrology, a Pleiadian Perspective. So when you come into our Inner Sanctum Temple, you can find that right there for you. And we are still in the eclipse window of September as of this filming. And there is also a guided journey with Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene to help you make the most of this eclipse season. So the link for joining us in the Inner Sanctum Temple is under the video. All right. So here's Brooke Underwood. She has been a client, colleague, and friend of mine for a number of years. I just love Brooke. She is a hypnotist, a Vedic astrologer, a modern feminine mystic, we would call her, based in the beautiful Blue Ridge Mountains of Asheville, North Carolina, one of my favorite places in the world. And her gift is that she helps restless and overworked visionary women in particular, although not limited to women, individuals, to transform people-pleasing and self-abandonment into radiant aliveness and expansive self-trust without spending years in therapy, attending countless ayahuasca ceremonies, or pushing aside deep heartbreak, even if you feel it's impossible to be fully authentic without losing crucial relationships or being canceled for speaking your truth. Brooke is all this and so much more. She is just one of the wisest souls that I know. She has been wise from a very early age. And so, Brooke, welcome.
It's an honor to be here, Marguerite. Thank you for having me.
Blessed be, dear heart. All right, so let's just get started with this key question, which has puzzled me and I've never gotten straight, which is, what is the difference between Western and Vedic astrology?
I will do my best to address this question because it is a big one. Scholars of olden age and modern age have debated this, and there are many unknowns on some of the technicalities of these different systems. But the heart of the difference is that Vedic astrology is rooted in the Vedas. And the Vedas are these ancient teachings around how we can live a harmonious, enriching life. It is rooted in what's called the Sanatana Dharma and the way in which we can invoke our own greatness by increasing awareness of our unconscious ways of being. And the tradition of Vedic astrology is a very special tradition, as the Indian and Hindu culture has this very beautiful karma of being able to preserve ancient knowledge by oral tradition. And so Vedic astrology, or what it is also referred to as Jyotish, or the science of light, has been an oral transmission through hundreds of years. It was first written down, the study of the planets and the astronomy of how to use the planets to align with rituals in India about 1500 years ago, and then about 1500 BCE, and then 600 BCE was the time that there was more an astrological understanding of how to apply these techniques for an individual birth chart, or chart of the day, and horary chart it's called. So there is this preciousness of preserving knowledge that Vedic astrology has. And within the past, I think since the 1950s, 60s, 70s, there's been a revival of Jyotish because of the ability to translate Sanskrit into English, and the Western culture really adapting these ancient techniques in a very enlivening and also research-oriented way. So there's been so much development um, the past 70 years or so that's been so exciting to join forces with my teachers and this lineage that goes so deep into the starry realms.
Wow. Can you tell us then a little bit about Western astrology and its roots, which would be like Roman astrology, or perhaps no, we're talking really in the Middle East?
Yeah, so probably Babylonian astrology, and India and Persia were always cross-exchanging ideas. So there's a lot of mystery about the Vedic traditional roots and how they have been, for instance, influenced by the Western zodiacal roots, which is rooted in the 12 signs, or what's called the 12 rashis in Sanskrit. And these 12 signs are very evident in Persian accounts that we have written down. And for that reason, there's a bit of perplexity around what is the correct zodiac to use, the correct zodiac, right? There's so much more to say. So Western astrology is specifically connected to the 12 zodiacal signs, Aries, Libra, Taurus, all these signs we're familiar with. And it is often connected to using the point of the ecliptic that's measured by the vernal equinox, so the spring equinox, versus most of Vedic astrology is using the point of the ecliptic that's measured from a fixed point in the constellations or in the sky, which is the sidereal zodiac.
Okay.
However, I use both because I have seen the utility of using both, and Vedic astrology is really rooted in the 27 nakshatras, or the star constellations, that
Okay.
are these lunar constellations that are very associated with the unconscious and with the feminine and with Shakti, or creative power. And all the myths and the devas and devis, the gods and goddesses connected to the Rig Veda, the oldest Vedic written work. So it's just a myriad of myths that Vedic astrology utilizes, but it specifically utilizes the myths of India versus the 12 zodiacal signs of the Western canon. Those are coming more from our Western association with these archetypes.
Okay. Now, one thing that's been coming to me for a number of years, and I don't know if we chatted about this personally, but is the 13th sign, Ophiuchus, right? It feels like there's more awareness now of this. And it's almost like a revelation for our time that, well, there actually are 13 signs instead of 12. And therefore, Lisa Renee, if you're familiar with her, she's like rewritten the whole date timing of
Mm.
when the signs are, and they've migrated. Like, I'm a Gemini, according to Lisa Renee, whereas I'm a Cancer in Western astrology, but her Western astrology taking into account the 13th sign. So what is this 13th sign? And can you tell us your intuition of what the awakening to a 13th sign means, and how this might transform even our understanding of Western astrology and how we use it?
Yeah. Well, I don't know too much about the 13th sign
Yeah.
because I know that both all systems of astrology are astronomically incorrect.
Okay.
So even though there's 12 signs that are divided within 30 degrees of an ecliptic arc, it's incorrect. Scorpio is a huge sign. It's way over 30 degrees. But
Mhm.
because it's the tradition of astrology, And because there is a mathematical way of dividing the sky in 12 equal signs to get to these certain conclusions around our true nature, and then predicting potential timelines in reality, that type of just, it fits, it works, even though it's not totally correct, is something I've had to lean into on and on again. And what has helped me liberate any of this, Vedic true sidereal is the only way to divine and rectify a chart, or Western tropical is the only way, or the 13 signs is the true and correct way. There are so many different ways to divvy up the sky, and there's so many constellations that aren't even named and discovered yet. So I just see it as this ongoing revolution of astrology, because we are in a time where we're becoming better astrologers. We're becoming more grounded in our earthly realms as much as our starry realms. And so the conversation around astrology needs to be happening. And I love knowing about the 13 signs, because that shows me that consciousness is waking up to the effects that these motions of the planets, or the grahas that grasp our consciousness and have this magnetizing effect on us, is real. And we're saying yes to understanding how we can then utilize that understanding to break through limiting patterns, our own karmic woundings, our own past life imprints, so that we can invoke more of this harmony, wholeness, peace, and happiness.
Yeah, my gosh, so many questions are emerging as we're talking. Yeah, it's like when they started discovering new or planets, right? In
Mm-hmm.
the last 200 years or
Oh,
whatever.
yeah.
Then it's like all of a sudden humanity has an evolution of consciousness by virtue of that new understanding, that new connectivity, that new awareness. So the same thing with the 13th sign, if it's expanding us. And of course, as we know, 13 has typically been the number of women.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of in a way midway through a moon cycle. Um, it is the number of female power. It's a primary number of or a prime number, right? It's undivisible. So it's a very great vector. And it feels like that is definitely bringing even more of the feminine into our world. Plus, Ophiuchus is the great healer, right? He's
Mm-hmm.
kind of connected with Asclepius, we might say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. And Asclepius is an asteroid as well. And this is something I'm so happy you brought up. So, in my Western astrology background, my first teacher, Demetra George, specialized in goddess asteroids and healing asteroids and asteroids in general. She did this phenomenal research inspired by some of her peers and teachers around when an asteroid was named. There was a shift in the consciousness in the planet, similar to when Uranus was discovered. There is this synchronistic relationship, but the asteroids in Western astrology are amazing, and rectifying the chart with the asteroid placements can give you clues
Mhm.
to your life path and to what is your highest. There's a lot of clues in my asteroid chart using the Western tropical division of seeing the stars, and it all was leading me to my career as a hypnotist. And it was really, really helpful just looking at those asteroid placements. And I had a strong Hippocrates placement on my sun sign, for instance, which is just like you can't get away from being a healer of some sort with that placement on your sole purpose.
Yeah. Well, so is astrology a trap or a tool? And I mean, like, do we fit ourselves to our astrology, or does our astrology change when we change, or what's the cause and effect? All right, so there's there's several questions in there, but do we fit ourselves to our astrology once we discover, oh, I have, I'm this sign, I have these aspects at my birth, I now have these transits that are going on. I have this astrocartography over the planet. Do we start fitting ourselves to that reality? Or what's the dance? What's the cause and effect dance here?
Such an important question. It is much about the fate versus free will, and
Yeah.
the planets in your birth chart are just indications of these unconscious patterns that we're working out in this lifetime, but that have been in the Vedic tradition. All the planets are past life markers, or what's called karikas. And we are working through liberating those patterns. We're not here to be victims of these patterns. We're using it as a self-awareness tool to liberate our consciousness and to be really in deep acceptance of some of the things, especially that have happened to us in the womb, pre-womb, early childhood, and patterns that we think were at, the whims of the fates, but actually with a lot of focus, due diligence, intentionality, and effort, usually rooted in some sort of spiritual practice, then we're able to chip away some of the heaviness of these karmic patterns and a lot of the fear that's built around them, especially when we hear that we have a really, really challenging combination in our chart. I, for instance, have Saturn moon, and that's a very common placement for depression, for either being orphaned or feeling like an orphan, or loss of mother. And as you know, Marguerite, my mother got advanced dementia when I was in my 20s, and suddenly she was gone. And so that Saturn moon karma was something that I saw in my chart, how easy it is. My mind can go to devastation, to depression, to longing. The moon is longing and memory and nostalgia, and just like, oh, I wish I had my mom. I wish she was healthy. I wish I could have helped, mitigate this problem. But lo and behold, it happened. And it happened when a transit was going on that made it so clear that this was part of the liberation of this karma in this lifetime for whatever reason.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean that we, again, are the victims to it. Is that we can see it, so we can accept it, and then choose a higher perspective. And I have another example on that too, if it could be helpful.
Yes. Before we do, I just want to acknowledge our viewers here, our beautiful sister, Angela de la Agua in Costa Rica, who has recently moved down there and is in an eco village, essentially, I'm for lack of a better word at the moment, and is doing lots of private one-on-one types of growth and healing sessions. So, if you have bad juju with your astrology, go to Angela de la Agua in Costa Rica and swim down there. Okay. And more than that, she's a very great healer. We have Maria Elena, who, and beautiful viewers, we are welcoming your comments, your questions. Maria Elena is saying she studied Vedic astrology, but prefers the tropical zodiac with the Vedic definitions. She's been using traditional Western astrology for 39 years and combining this wisdom with Jyotish wisdom. Beautiful.
Amazing.
So this video with you two is perfect for me. Maria Elena, we are here for you. She does have a question. Let's first get your example, your other example of what you were going to show about the liberation aspect. And of course, I want to talk about how you combine your Western and Vedic and, all that kind of stuff. But share with us the example that you had alluded to.
So this was perfect that this example just came up 3 days ago. I was at a puja, or traditional Vedic ritual. It was Navaratri this week, the celebration of Goddess Durga. And
Yeah.
I was deep in ritual and in prayer. And before we got going, there was a woman who is connected to a very tantric Tibetan lineage. And her Tibetan teacher is an astrologer, and told her that, when you have children, it looks like you'll probably, bless you, you'll probably need a C-section. And she was devastated by that news, because she's all about natural birth and having a midwife and a doula and things like this. So for her to hear that from her astrology and her teacher and someone in authority, we all have our authority biases, right?
Yeah. Oh
It devastated her. And she thought, like, what does this mean? What is this for me? And she asked me about it. And I said, well, this is one of the the edginess and the beautiness of this Eastern style of astrology, and seeing some of the helpful predictive elements. It's that, well, you can now plan ahead for having a positive relationship with your doctors and with more mainstream medicine. You can do anything that could potentially help you with that experience. You could start to do different exercises to help your hips. You could do so many things to develop a positive mental expectancy for something
Yes.
that has absolutely triggered a big fear response, because she came to me and she said she feels so much fear. She feels so worried about it. She feels so sad about it, because her biggest fear is being in Western medicine and
Yeah.
participating in that system, especially with birth. And that's part of how karma is playing us, and how the mind and reality plays us, is that we can get so stuck in, this is the only way it can go, that will feel safe, that will feel righteous, that will feel aligned, and anything else I resist. I have too much fear, I have too much resistance to that, I don't want to do that at all. But every time that we let that ego push away what may truly be the true right karma for us to experience, we are suppressing our true nature, and we're suppressing also our growth and elevating our consciousness to not be taken off our center because of any situation that we may run into.
Yeah, because as you're saying, it's just a little warning bell.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, potential roadblocks ahead. So let's get prepared,
Yep.
right? It could be a preparatory kind of thing, like the weather. There might be a hurricane, so let's get everything,
Mm-hmm.
okay, that is a very beautiful and powerful example of using it to your advantage, and then screwing your courage to the sticking place and going into the experience and transforming that karma. It's
Yeah.
almost like what we're hearing in that is, this is an example of her past karma, right? She lost children at childbirth, whatever. She died in childbirth. This is the karma that's being signaled.
Yep.
And it's just telling you, you can do this differently now, rather than kill me now. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Which is the typical response to Vedic. And what we need are more skilled people in Vedic to say, who bring some of the Western sensibility to say, no, you're not, this is not like, the caste system. You know what I mean? Where like,
Mm-hmm.
that's it. You're that, and that's it. You're an
Mm-hmm.
untouchable. Sorry, rather, there are other ways you can do it. So
And we also don't want to give false hope, which something
Mhm.
that I think Western astrology does unfortunately really well, is to give false hope, and to
Mhm.
give this sense of just like, yes, you will heal this like genetic disease because there's a Jupiter transit coming up.
Mhm.
I don't know. There's a potential for any healing and any breakthrough to happen, but to be giving false hope too early, or to someone who is unwilling to use their willpower to change their life, that
Mhm.
also can be, well, karma on the astrologer's front, but give a sense of disempowerment, because it's an incorrect remedy or incorrect suggestion or advice, giving false hope to someone.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. It's a dance.
It is a big
It's
dance.
a dance. It's a
Yes.
dance of courage, maturity, and the ability to manifest what you want, right?
Yes.
Like, not just putting your head in the sand, but getting active with whatever it might be. Um, so Angela is saying, yes, come to Costa Rica and retreat with me to transform your karma. Your Vedic astrology, I want to kill myself karma. Just go right down to Angela. All right. Put your link in there. Angela de la Agua. Okay. So Maria Elena is asking, and again, we are welcoming, we have a number of people who are here live. We're welcoming your questions, your comments. Maria Elena is saying, can you talk about Vesta and Juno along the lines of non-patriarchal definitions, such as specifically womb/parthenogenesis powers? Oh, goody. Yeah, Vesta, right? She is the Vestal Virgin. She is the womb. She was oh gosh, what was she in the Greek?
She
Hestia. Hestia.
Hestia.
The hearth womb. And she was the one, that the Vestal Virgins' wombs were attached to in the Roman Empire. And they had to keep that flame alive. So their womb power was being siphoned off actually to support the Roman army, unfortunately. But there were a lot of signs of divine birth in those Vestal Virgins. And of course, Juno is Hera, and she has divine birth priestesses, according to what I have studied and written about in my first two books, The Cult of Divine Birth in Ancient Greece, and then Virgin Mother Goddesses of Antiquity, especially, and all the signs that some of these priestesses were dedicated to divine conception. Let's hear about your perspective on Vesta and Juno, regarding non-patriarchal versions of them, impressions of them,
Mm. I
reality.
love I love this because this is the magic of myth in storytelling and how the stories we tell us can liberate us or suppress us. And that exactly is the art and science of astrology, is to share liberating stories that validate and also let us let go and then move on to a bigger and brighter and more expansive story.
Mhm.
So indeed, there's that story of the Vestal Virgins being enslaved to the fire. But I wonder if we took the story of the Vestal Virgins being these fire priestesses who were devoted to Agni, the sacred fire that was illuminating consciousness regularly. And that illumination was illuminating their Shakti, their creative spark, their eros, their just aliveness. And that was giving them a lot of life, so to speak, to continue on their devotion. Vesta is so devotional to the divine. And Juno, what would I say about Juno? Well, we know Juno to be a bit of the archetype of the jealous partner, or those who have Juno in their birth chart. There can be just like comparison, jealousy, frustration, ego in relationships, grasping on to you need to behave in this way, this relationship needs to be this way, like a fixed sense of this is how things go in love and relationships. And I can see how we can liberate that Juno picture by Juno being someone that is the devoted partner, that is wanting to, like Vesta or the Vestal Virgins, devote to something beyond her. And relationship is a mechanism of devotion, or the sacred consort idea, that without the other person, devotion is more of this inner cultivation, but with the external person, the external muse, it is this devotion of two become one, the dyad into union consciousness. So that's what I would say about those two.
That is beautiful. Not to mention that Hera really was the original queen of heaven before Zeus even came onto the picture. You know what I mean? So, like, as we understand, like, that was so beautiful, the yerogamic, positive yerogamic union that you're talking about. As we understand the multiple facets of these, this is like the work that I'm doing with Mother Mary, right? As we understand them in their fuller bloom, so we can understand aspects of ourself and take action on the fuller bloom aspects of ourself, right? So what we're hearing today is astrology is by no means a fixed thing at all, even in its structured scientific, form.
Mm-hmm.
It is a living, breathing organism that lives and breathes along with us and that can serve us in all of these ways. Yeah, I always thought that if I were going to become an astrologer, I would have gone right down into all those goddesses, and I would have gone into all those planets, and I would have said, well, first of all, this is a cast as a male planet, but who's the counterpart of Saturn? Who's the counterpart of Mars? Who's and then you got all these amazing goddesses, right? And where did that information go missing, right? If we're only going to see Mars as the warrior and we're going to miss Aphrodite, his partner,
Mm-hmm.
okay, we're very limited. If we're only going to see Saturn, who is essentially Kronos, and not see Rhea, his his goddess queen of the universe also in another iteration. We're missing that, and we're seeing Saturn as like a dour taskmaster, and if we're seeing Jupiter as, la la la, he's all fun and games until you start looking that he's Zeus, and a reptilian. But then you start looking at Hera, the counterpart that came to him, like we start being able to nuance our life a little bit more, it seems like. So tell us, Brooke, a little bit more, and then I think there are some questions coming in which we will have answered. Tell us a little bit more about this feminine dimension of Vedic astrology. Okay, because we're talking a lot here about Western astrology, which is more what I'm familiar with. What's the feminine aspect of Vedic?
Yes. So it lies in the 27 nakshatras, these what are called lunar mansions or places of the moon's wives. So the 27 nakshatras are Chandra, or the moon's wives. And every day and a half, he pit stops with one of his wives. That's part of the mythology. Of course, there's other ways we can look at, 27 and the different Shaktis of each lunar mansion, giving us some understanding of how to be one with creation. One of them is the power to overcome great obstacles. One is the power to use poison as medicine. Wow. One is the power to illuminate. One is the power to prosper in sacred union or relationships. There's all these different esoteric meanings associated with the lunar mansions, and they still have not been developed because they're so far out, so to speak. And part of my research as a Jyotishi specializing in 27 nakshatras, this is why I went to Vedic astrology. I was like, what are you talking about? There's 27 signs, and they give even more specific clues to our trauma, to our dharma, to our natural inclinations of our mind and where our mind goes, whether it's in fear or likes or dislikes, aversions and attractions. I can just look at these nakshatras and see like, oh yeah, that I'm part of this living unseen realm. Part of my research is using the nakshatras to liberate subconscious patterns that I see in clients almost immediately. And I do that by seeing the chart, looking at the 27 nakshatras, intuitively asking questions of, have you experienced this type of reality in one of these nakshatras, for instance? And oh, yes, I have. Actually, I have. I do, for instance, have always had a connection with the goddess or the feminine divine or earth or wanting to preserve nature. Oh, so I see this Punarvasu placement that's ruled by the goddess Aditi is very strong in your chart. And actually, that's really important for you to honor in everything that you do. Wow. Oh, so you mean I probably wouldn't feel satisfied getting that job at working at Shell and for a big oil corporation? It's like, oh no, you are Punarvasu. You want to be preserving the earth. You want to be with the earth. Oh, so let me take this other preservation-oriented job, for instance. So it just gives us really dynamic clues to our path while also validating some of the most immense traumas that I've seen. These nakshatras just go deep, 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 deep. And it is a constant mystery. They speak to me in dreams and omens. It is a different world of animism that the nakshatras have, that many people have yet to develop it. But there is this wave in Vedic astrology of a nakshatra revival right now. So it's very exciting, and I can't wait to be teaching the nakshatras.
Amazing. Well, that answered the question of Yashira Akrashta, your angelic helper, who said, could you talk a bit about the nakshatras? I was looking it up the other day, but I still don't understand them, nor how they relate to the signs or the houses.
Yeah, it's best to see them totally separate. Best to see the nakshatras totally separate from the house placements, although it can be helpful at some point, but that's more of the advanced levels, the advanced like sprinkles on the already decorated cake. You just need the cake, the meat of the nakshatras, and especially knowing your moon nakshatra. That's the most important. It's called your Jainma nakshatra. Your moon nakshatra gives so much information on your psyche, on your likes, your dislikes, and your rising sign nakshatra is also important. And then I would go to sun sign and then the rest of the planets.
Okay, very good. Wow. All right. So Maria Elena is saying, I love Marguerite's latest two liberating books. Oh, yeah, that would be The Secret Life of Mother Mary, most recently. And then The Mystery Tradition of Miraculous Conception, Mary and the Lineage of Virgin Births. Thank you for speaking to Vesta as devotional to the divine, and Juno Hera as one in herself without a partner, or able to have a divine union, right? Which is all of us. We're both sovereign and we're relational if and when and as we want to be, So that's Hera right there. So station break here, just mentioning to everybody that, of course, I'm the director of Seven Sisters Mystery School. You can find links under this video. And that in our Inner Sanctum Temple, which is a beautiful monthly experience that also gives you access to almost my entire library of past courses and videos, amazing, many hours of illuminating, esoteric, fascinating teachings. We most recently in our live calls, because we have 3 live calls per month, we had one about harmonizing and transcending astrology, a Pleiadian perspective. And then we worked with the Marys to have a separate experience of working with and moving through the eclipse cycle, which is still we're still transferring out of from September, which to me was one of the most biggest doozy eclipse cycles that we've had. I'm like, so please take a look at that link under the video. We also, to find out more about the Inner Sanctum Temple and to join us, we also always welcome super chats for those watching live and super sticker donations for those who are watching at another time. These help us to maintain the administrative arm of Seven Sisters Mystery School. So thank you so very much. Okay, yeah, you can click on the currency symbol next to your chat bar to comment and support Seven Sisters by purchasing super chats and super stickers. Okay, yay. All right, so Brooke, let's talk a little bit more about your means of practicing, because you're such a wise woman. So what do you do as a Vedic astrologer, guide, and hypnotist? And how do you weave in the Western and the Vedic perspectives? All right. So yeah, talk us through a typical type of session, or however you would like to express this.
Yes, I'm rooted in the feminine divine, rooted in my intuitive channel. And a lot of people come to me to reprogram their reality from reprogramming their belief system and reprogramming their emotions. And so much stuck emotion is the cause of not getting what we want and the cause of just continuously getting stuck in these loops of our karma. So hypnosis is a tool that I use to liberate stuck emotions and really listen to the emotional body and all parts of the self. And that is something called parts therapy. And one of my clients tonight is actually performing in a theater play called Parts Play here in Asheville. This whole weekend, there's a huge culture phenomenon of parts therapy being expressed on the stage. So
I'm driving right down. Okay. Yeah. All right.
Yes. So parts therapy is really changing people's lives. And I think that's part of the reason why people are knocking on the doors of ancient astrology, because astrology is like the original parts therapy.
Okay. Good.
So
that's your bumper sticker. All right, girl, for you. Down in Asheville over there. All right. Yeah.
So there's 9 grahas or planets in the Vedic tradition. And those planets all are different parts of our consciousness.
Okay.
And so some of those planets are coming in with a lot of challenges. Some of them are coming in with a lot of gifts. Often it's a mixed bag or
Usual.
all at the same time. And depending on the different timeline we are running, because that's one of the magical things of Jyotish is knowing what planet is on stage, what part of you is on deck, so to speak.
Okay.
I'm in a moon dasha right now. So moon is a creativity. It's the public eye. It's for
Right.
me, it's career as well. So all of this is very alive in my life right now. And then some of the issues I have with my moon sign particularly are also very alive, but I won't indulge us with those right now. But when we're able to see the parts of us that are both coming online because of the current timing, whether it's from a what's called a dasha timing system in Vedic astrology, or by just using the transits that we all know, the outer transits to our natal birth chart, or it's just a deep knowing of like the part of me that feels like I don't have any will to change this. Mars, our core, our power. When we're able to see all of these parts as valid and like willing and able to do their part in getting you to a place of success and harmony, then we're able to move a lot of the emotions because of this deep listening, validation, and acceptance of these unconscious levels of the self. And so in my practice, people work with me in looking at these different aspects of self to liberate them from any place of where they are feeling disempowered or unconsciously feeding some sort of victim story.
Wow.
Uh, so it's an integrative, expansive journey. It's Vedic astrology meets Joe Dispenza's work. I've been saying that
Okay.
recently, of just changing your state to change your reality. Well, we need to listen to our body and listen to the parts of us for optimal cohesiveness and coherency so that we can move forward with less resistance and with this increased self-awareness so that we can become our own healers, our own guides, our own coaches, and do that for our loved ones and people that we're here to serve. So it's all about increasing self-awareness and increasing the belief system that you know is going to bring you the life, the success, the love that you desire.
Wow. And at the end, we will tell people where they can connect with you, because I have had that experience with you just this summer on my breakfast bar, sharing some things. And then you're like, "Da-da-da-da-da-da." And then you just started telling me all these things. And I was like, my God, that was the most helpful 5 minutes from like healers that I've had, for 3 months over here. It was just your wise woman, like intuition that married right into what you were looking at chart wise, or, and what you were hearing was going on. It was uncanny, actually. It was really quite beautiful and strong. Yashira Akrashta is thanking you for the nakshatras discussion. Anna Maria is saying, seems so much what you're speaking of is coming together for me. Oh, beautiful. Thank you. Ahandra is saying, interesting. Thanks to both of you and for the questions and comments. Yes, we are welcoming questions. We are welcoming comments. Let's talk a little bit about what is the most, maybe you've alluded to this, but what's the most surprising aspect of your work, with, it could be with astrology or combining it with hypnotism, and your intuitional skills? What's the most surprising, or what keeps you learning? What are you learning as you're going along with this? Yeah.
Yes, I have a big desire to make meaning out of anything and nothing. I have the heart of a poet. And so this career fulfills me on so many levels, and seeing what's in between, seeing what's communicating with me, hearing what is really communicating with me and with my clients. What I guess surprises, it's not a surprise anymore, but I do just get so excited both when we change a pattern almost overnight. That
Wow.
is always the most rewarding thing, by the use of, I think, the storytelling mechanism of Jyotish Vedic astrology and my intentionality of using the gift of conversational hypnosis, the skill of conversational hypnosis. I think I have both of those. Everyone growing up told me I was going to be a radio, TV
We're all being
talk host.
hypnotized right now, all right? You don't want it. Leave, drink something, take a shower. No, okay, but in a good way. Okay, that's fascinating. I'm hypnotized just listening to you.
There we go. Yes, you're all in my trance, my Vedic astrology trance right now. Thank you for consenting to this moment.
I consent to the word. Yeah.
So it's my intention is to, yes, use hypnosis, use hypnotic language to get through a barrier that I just sense into it and feel is in my client's reality, and that they are consenting full yes to changing this pattern. I won't push, I won't, force, I won't assume that they don't want this change unless they tell me that they are ready for this change. And the other thing I would say that's so enriching is the constant communication and relationship. As the planets, when you're practicing it with astrology, you are in relationship with the planets. You're in relationship to the cosmos, to the earth realm, with your people, with your persons, with how you're observing cause and effect constantly in reality. And that relationship is something that just like, it brings so much healing to my Saturn moon affliction of feeling like I'm orphaned from love, right? It's like, oh my God, there's so much love that's moving through the universe and all these different forms, all these different medicines, just like the plants are giving us different remedies and different solutions and different hard messages around boundaries or too much or too little. So are the planets in this relationship. So they're really my guides. I think a lot of people have guides and angelic beings. I certainly have them, I know, but I really tune into the guides of the planets and the guides of just the associations with the planets, because there's a whole list of correspondences, even Vedic deities associated with the planets, similar to Hera and Zeus being associated with Jupiter. Well, Brihaspati and Sarasvati is associated with Jupiter in this tradition. So when I'm developing these relationships with these flavors of consciousness and the archetypal and corresponding symbolism, then suddenly it's like I have this rainbow colored reality where I get to adjust the frame in which I'm meeting a client or meeting myself or meeting any sort of relationship with this frame and this like different picture of how reality is manifesting through me. So it's a very animistic, alive practice that inspires me every single day. And there's nothing I would otherwise be doing with my time in this incarnation so far.
It's amazing. And that is kind of a major message that came through the Pleiadian teachings that I was talking about in the Inner Sanctum Temple teaching call that we had on harmonizing and transcending astrology. It was, you are definitely in a relationship with the planets and the stars, and understanding that and deepening it is very part and parcel of our conscious awakening, of our moving into fifth dimensional reality. And I think you exemplify that. So do you have a strong sense with any of the star systems, Pleiades, Arcturus, Andromedans, Sirians? Do you go there in your work or your life?
Sometimes it comes up in astrology. I'll look at, for instance, Sirius. It's a very important star. The Pleiades are associated with the nakshatra Kritika.
The cutters.
The cutters, yeah. But otherwise, I don't right now have a relationship with them.
Yet another layer, perhaps, as you personally move forward. Brooke, I was wondering if you wanted to share anything personal, like An example from your personal, and now that we've like learned all about your mental, acuity and whatnot, did you want to share anything personally about how you've seen astrology express, manifest in your life, transform your life? Something. Let's have you tune in. And
I think there's two things. One of them is the eclipses and the nodal axis, which I think is timely because we're still on the tail end of the eclipse window, probably for another 2 weeks or so. We're still in the post effect.
Dear God, get us out of it. We can't wait. Yeah. Okay.
So I was born right before a solar eclipse, or excuse me, lunar eclipse. And anytime that you're born close or on an eclipse, your life is going to be affected by eclipses. And your life is going to be this tumultuous karmic burn of unusual circumstances in comparison to the culture, to the kind of early conditioning that you had. So, for instance, I'm a girl from Missouri, the middle of America. No one in my family is into the healing arts, and my nodal chart, my eclipse chart, has given me a lot of like validation of like the weirder, the better, the odder, the more beautiful reality I can create. And with that,
which you're concealing your ears with that mechanism, but you're a fairy on top of it all.
It's true. Yeah, my ears do stick out. Let's just say hello to them. There they are.
Very hybrid. Yeah, that's helping. Okay.
Yes, a fairy hybrid starseed is definitely born during the eclipse portal. Let's just say that. And there is probably like whomever's giving birth to their children during the eclipses, they're probably going to be pioneers of consciousness, or they're probably going to have to suffer a lot of difficulties in a really unusual way to then creatively give them the permission to recreate the reality in a very juxtaposed, amazing, contrasting way. The gift that's brought is that now I specialize in teaching the eclipses and teaching Rahu Ketu, or the North Node and South Node, in the birth chart. And I just did a month of teaching, and I refer to myself as Eclipse Mistress because I've just been like bulldozed by eclipses. Yes, I've owned it. Let me tell you about the eclipses. This can happen to you. This is what's happening in the dream world, the unconscious world. This is what happens in relationships. This is what's happening with the nervous system, the security paradigm. This is where you're not seeing your blind spot. This is where you're too comfortable. This is what the communication is between your North Node and South Node based on the sign, the house placement, other aspecting planets. If you just study the nodes in your chart, then you can liberate yourself and you can fully see the traps of your insecurities and also the beauty of what you need to go after to truly be fulfilled and to evolve your consciousness. That is the North Node. So that's been a gift. That's been a huge gift. But every eclipse cycle, I have something happen to me.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like, all right, I have to let it go again. So many relationships have ended. So many, housing things end, or I have to move on. I was affected by Hurricane Helene last September eclipse cycle, and I got spewed out to the Charleston, the beach, and then had a whole soul reckoning chapter because of the eclipses. Eclipses are ruled by Kali. So Kali is the transformative power of consciousness, and she will make you transform, whether you like it or not. And that's part of the eclipses, is that, almost like they're a bit of a dominatrix of our reality, of just like, I know you're going to feel a little pain at times. You're going to feel a lot of discouragement or insecurity or, just like overwhelm. But this ultimately is in your highest. So how can we embrace this radical change that's happening to us during the eclipses more and more? Because I think with the rise in consciousness, so many of us, we're going to be eclipsing out of past lives or parts of our lives that just are no longer in alignment. And we're all just getting to that next harmonic step. And the eclipses are like, time to get to that next harmonic step.
Wow.
Let's just, clean out the cobwebs here in this aspect of your life.
Oh my gosh. Well, yep. I just went through all that list of everything you described. We have Carlos Castaneda is here with us today, saying my ears do too. Thank you, maternal grandmother. To celebrate my 60th birthday, ears added piercings. Okay, that's so great. I love the idea of fairy ears with piercings. So we've got a few minutes left. Let's just have you tune in. What would you like to further share with people who are listening live, are listening at other times? From your perspective as a wisdom goddess, as an astrological hypnotic wisdom goddess, what kinds of messages or inspirations would you like to share with everybody here?
Your dharma, your purpose is more obvious than you think. And often it is moving and changing in ways that you get to have a relationship with purpose and dharma. And when you do, that gives you the gift of this deep security with your sovereign self. And this process of individuation, of what Jung referred to as this sovereign knowing of who I am and how can I fully claim this role, this hero or heroine's journey that is my current lifetime. And with that, when we lean into the Dharma, when we lean into knowing exactly what it is, maybe not exactly at times, but just the feeling is exact. We can feel that, oh, this is the thing that enlivens me, that meets my values, that meets my need for connection, my need for expression, my need for contribution. When we really sink into that, most of our codependencies will dissolve.
Wow.
And that, I think, is one of the greatest gifts of seeing the patterns in our chart that are emphasizing places where we give our energy away, where we attach our energy onto other people with expectations or just limited ways of being in relationship to others because of a limitation of the love that we are able to conjure and abide in for ourselves. And that love can be very much grounded and anchored in the powerful dharma that is each of ours to have and to live out.
Oh my goodness, what a beautiful, beautiful expression. Yes, I mean, the most frequent comment that I had while in my 12 years of giving private readings was, what is my role? What should I be doing? What is my work? Always, more than even relationships. It was always this. So, go get a session with Brooke. So Brooke, how can people get a hold of you? And we will put those links in the show notes under the video if they're not already there, but tell us where people can find you and what kinds of readings and sessions that you do.
Yes, I'm on Instagram a lot at Brooke Underwood Energy, also on Facebook and my website. And my readings can vary depending on the season. I just wrapped up eclipse readings, for instance, and I'm not sure what the next reading theme will be, but I always have my intensive readings open. They're about an hour 15, hour and a half sessions where we're unpacking your chart and we're unpacking you in all these really powerful ways. And I also at times do purpose-oriented readings that are a little shorter, usually around 50 minutes or so. And so if that's something after, especially our conversation, feels enlivening, then just let me know that that's something that you like. as there's a specific technique to understand purpose really easily in Vedic astrology that I did not have in Western astrology. And
Wow.
when, 10 years ago, Marguerite, when we started working together, had I had that technology and that tool to see, oh, this is really my purpose, it would have really helped me embrace parts of myself that I was resisting.
Mm.
So yeah.
Wow. Okay, well, that's great. Again, the links will be under this video in the show notes. We've had thanks from various people who've been watching live, Anna Maria, Construction Art, and others. And so with that, Brooke, we will just say goodbye for now, and wishing you and all of us a beautiful dance with the stars. And we'll say bye for now.
Many blessings. Thank you all. Thank you, Marguerite.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.